Welcome back to another episode of the Success Times Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Richard Thompson. Today, I am joined by Michael Kain, the CEO of Devcon, one of the largest and most influential property developers on the Sunshine Coast. Michael's story is one of resilience, long-term thinking, and building something meaningful through some incredibly challenging economic cycles. From growing up on the coast to leading Devcon through the GFC, mining booms and busts, and COVID, Michael shares the lessons that shaped his leadership and values. In this episode, you'll learn about compounding effort, culture, and decision-making under pressure. Whether you're building a business, a career, or a legacy, this conversation is for you. All right, let's get into it. Michael Kain, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for asking me. And I guess, maybe not a thank you to Scott, who nominated me to come on, but no.
Yeah, it took a little bit for you to be convinced. Why? What made you give the green light?
It was something that Scott said, I think, that was possibly a, regurgitation of something you said, that it's not about, me as such and my story. It's about, someone listening, getting something out of it, my experiences, and hopefully bettering a part of their life or their path, or, getting something out of it that they can benefit from, in their journey. So that's what typically I wouldn't say shy, but, don't like the limelight. And so, my normal inclination is to say no to things like this, and to say, sort of hide, I guess, as a personality. But yeah, as I've gotten older, I do have a little bit to offer, even though it's a little bit uncomfortable to even say that. So, that's what got me to come along today, is to hopefully help someone else. Yeah.
The centerpiece around, I guess, your legacy on the Sunshine Coast is Devcon. And we'll certainly talk about that. But take me back to childhood, growing up in an Italian household. What influence did your parents and grandparents have on you?
Yeah, so I'm a Sunshine Coast boy, born in Nambour, never really left.
Very few
of us. Never really left. A stint in Toowoomba, Brisbane, Gold Coast for a little bit, but always home was Sunshine Coast. My parents, my father's passed away a few years ago, but my mum still lives in the same house in Budrum. I think she's been there, might be 48, 49 years or something. I'm 46, so I've only ever had one, family home, a childhood family home. So very much a coast soul. My mum is Italian. Her parents, obviously my grandparents, and my dad, Australian, I guess you'd call him. So we had a blended sort of culture in our family home, but very much the extended, my grandparents and their extended sort of friendship group, community, and family were a big part of my growing up and what we thought was normal as a culture, and how you interacted and those sorts of things. So, we sort of had one of those sort of mixed upbringings, I guess, culturally.
Was that common on the Sunshine Coast at that time?
I don't think, no, not common. No, I think we were definitely, not many like that. I mean, when my mum came to Australia, she was 7, and I might have some of these, dates and things and locations wrong, but I'll vaguely be right. And they settled in Glasshouse or Beer War, somewhere around there, and they were a bit of an outcast, I guess, as a community. They stuck together. That's how they got through. But hard workers, they're coming from that time. So 1957, my mum came, but her dad, my grandfather, who we called Nunu as our sort of affectionate name, he came some years before with his brother-in-law Aldo Filiaggi, who actually turned 99 a couple of days ago.
Wow.
He's still kicking, amazing man. But they came to Australia to find a better life, and they came from that World War II aftermath.
Yeah.
So they came over with just like nothing, same story that you'd hear, and all they had was determination, resilience, and they knew how to work with their own hands. So that's what they did. So they were Kain cutters. I think they were like a, in my term, in my industry, they were like a gang that would go and cut cane in someone else's farm, so labour for hire. And then my grandparents bought a pineapple farm, Glasshouse Beer somewhere, and then eventually retired in Caloundra. I remember my grandfather owning a truck, like a tipper truck, and working for the council or something. But I have two older sisters, and we were brought up in that mixed Italian sort of Aussie blend of family. But my mum was an outcast when she came to Australia, and obviously knew no English and had to go to school, and got bullied, I guess, and all those sorts of things. But so they made the decision not to raise us as Italians. I guess having an Australian dad made that a little bit easier, but we didn't speak Italian at home, and I don't speak Italian. I can probably understand a fair bit, but I couldn't have a conversation with someone.
Right.
That's one of those sort of wish that was a different way, but pretty cool to be able to speak Italian, but wasn't to be. And we, just coast kids. My sisters went to St. John's. I went to Emmanuel. Grew up on the coast. My parents were business people. My dad is a baker by trade. So, again, hardworking, like pick if there's one profession.
One trade, yeah.
That, I wouldn't want my son to choose.
Baker.
As much as, seeing him and how hard he worked. But it was a mental toll and a physical toll.
Because he's up at sort of 1 a.m. or something.
Yeah, it's shift work, like 2 shifts a day. And I know there's a lot of people that do that, but owning your own business as well. And they had many different bakeries around the coast, and we grew up in them as kids, at shopping centres.
First job sort of thing?
Yeah, basically, sort of unpaid, I guess. But, yeah, we got, some of those intrinsic sort of hard-working /
Yeah, you think that being surrounded in that environment of hard work and entrepreneurship or business ownership sort of impacted you?
Yeah, definitely. They had the first bakery in Cottontree, the old main street. The Cottontree is where all the cafes are now, and there was friends of theirs had the service station across the road, and I think it was called the Jolly Baker or something. And some of the old people on the coast will probably remember that, and that was their first business. And then they went to Kiwana Shopping Centre, and they had, the Cottontree one was Kip's Hot Bread. My dad's nickname was Kip, even though his name was Malcolm. And then they went to Kiwana Shopping Centre and had a bakery in there that was called the Jolly Baker, and then Golden Grain Bakery. There was 2 at one time, and we just as kids we'd live in that shopping centre at Kiwana Shopping World back then it was called, and
It'd been fairly newly built as well.
Yeah, I guess I don't really know, to be honest, because I was pretty young. But I look at the tiles in that shopping centre, and they're the same. They've been there for 40 odd years, however that shopping centre is. And I was actually telling the stories to my kids about the tiles. These are the same tiles that I walked on when I was probably 5, 6, 7 that I can remember. But yeah, definitely my parents in business, intrinsically just I learned stuff that I didn't even realise I was learning, and didn't even realise it was a thing that other people didn't know or understand.
Yeah. Lessons on resiliency, or is that implied as well?
Yeah, the resilience is, I think...
There's one thing that, from the time that we've spent together, the overarching sort of takeaway that I have is how resilient you have been. And I just wondered whether is that something that does your Italian mother or your father sit down with a young Michael and talk about that, or is that just
No.
all picked up?
No sit down or sort of conversation sort of triggers anything like that. I think it's just monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
Generations of it. I think the resilience, I joke about it jokingly, but it can be a curse because you sort of never give up at all costs, and that can be quite sort of traumatic or taxing emotionally, physically. Which I, as a 46-year-old, looking back at my dad, like he was super resilient. And, back then guys were, fathers were a bit more like rough and tumble and rule with an iron fist and do as I say, not as I do type stuff. And my dad was definitely like that. But one thing's for sure, he, worked his guts out for the best life that he could provide. And, it's hard to know where the balance is, I guess. And I think that modern life, teaches, generations since then that, more things about mental health and looking after yourself, and burning out isn't smart. You've got to look after yourself before you can look after others, and those sorts of things. As a society, we've become far more emotionally intelligent around that sort of stuff. But that's why I sort of say that I jokingly joke about resilience can be a curse, because it,
if you're not careful, it could possibly be.
Well, it can overtake you and your family and those sorts of things, because no matter what, at all costs, you don't give up.
Got through school. What was the goal after that? What did you want to do?
I was one of those people that had, I'm going to say, a different idea every year type thing. My earliest memory of, when they say, "Oh, what do you want to be when you're a kid?" I wanted to be a pilot, particularly a fighter pilot in the Air Force. That was probably one of those sort of, when kids say I want to be a fireman because they look up to them, and I probably watched Top Gun or something and went, I want to be
fighter pilot,
Maverick or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do still, and I had an interest, and I did do my pilot's license, or the first part of it. I went to uni and did electrical engineer / aerospace engineering. I wasn't either A, smart enough, or B, interested enough or committed enough to finish that. It's super hard, like lots of mathematics, logic, and sort of, just different thinking that, wasn't for me. My entrepreneurial sort of
that was coming through.
Soul kept coming through, so I couldn't sit and, not so much that I had ADD or, that sort of inattention. It was more about, what you're passionate about, and chasing that. I swam a lot as a kid. Good. I was a good swimmer. Probably as good as you get before you start calling yourself a professional. Bit small to be, at the elite level. My age group was sort of that Grant Hackett, Ian Thorpe, if people can sort of think of that sort of era. While they were breaking, Australian records, I was struggling to make the semi-finals type thing. Okay. But so I wanted to go to the Olympics, like as a kid, super passionate about that. But again, just, not good enough. But what swimming did teach me was, more of that resilience training and hard work and pushing past thresholds and discipline, discipline in your own self, but also discipline from others. There's an authoritarian sort of, back then, of way you used to get coached. And I think today we miss a bit of that.
Generally in life, or are you just speaking pool deck?
Oh, well, both, I think.
Yeah. I think also endurance sport, I mean, swimming's quite technical, but endurance sport generally gives you an inclination of the compounding effect of hard work. It's not just the discipline, but it's what that means in a year's time, what that means, how you're swimming if you consistently show up
Mm.
over 2 years, where those improvements are. And I think that's a lesson that unless you've really experienced that, it's really hard to accept. Because
Yeah.
you go to the pool, you go to the gym, you rock up one day, you're on a better diet, you do it for a day and you look in the mirror and nothing's changed.
Yeah.
But if you've had some prior experience, some prior evidence of your life to go, well, I just need to consistently show up for 2 years and then let's see it.
Yeah.
That helps.
Mm. And it's not that hard, like, no disrespect to you, you're at the highest level you could in your sport that anyone can think of, but it's not that hard to go from average to like very good.
I'm very aware of that.
If that's
why I was able to do it.
But you obviously went to.
But it's a very similar. It's a similar ingredient. You just what is it? You just show up.
Yeah, and I think that same. So instead of turning up to swimming training, 7 times a week, if you just did 9 and not the 10, you're better than you're doing better than
How important?
80%, 90% of people.
How important though is it surrounding yourself with people more advanced than you? Because if you, I'm thinking in a swimming analogy, is that if you're swimming 3 times a week at primary school and everyone else is swimming once at PE, you're going to be you're miles ahead. Then as soon as you go to the squad and they're actually swimming 12 times a week, you start swimming 12 times a week and you're miles ahead again. But unless you're surrounding yourself to what's normal or to what a group of people, your mentors or people you look up to, and they normalize that level of commitment, they normalize that amount of the hard work. You try to put that in that group who are doing 1 session a week and you say we should do 13 or 12 sessions a week, you'd get ostracized.
Yeah.
But as soon as you broaden your surrounds of people who normalize what you're wanting to achieve, you become, that's where high performance lies, right?
I use this analogy often, particularly with kids, I think. But like you think of a horse race, right? And the horse that wins by a nose wins $1 million. The horse that came second by a nose, 10 centimeters wins, I don't know, 200,000 or something. So there's 5 times the reward for a split second difference. And so that extra 1%, or not even 1%, that extra 0.1% you overtake so many people every 0.1%. Like it's such a big jump. And that's in life, that's in business, that's all areas of being a human being, in my opinion. And, I'm quite mathematical, so I think of that like compounding. One of the things that people can understand financially, the extraordinary result from compounding, the simple term of compound interest. That's how the ultra wealthy got ultra wealthy. They just kept, doubling up type thing. But the same can be done with, sport performance, spiritual, mental, emotional, relationships with people. The more effort you put into a relationship with your best mate, the better it's going to be. No matter where you go, you put in an extra 1% and you do that 100 times. It's a 1% on 1%. It just it's infinitely possible what you can get to.
Is that maddening for you though? Because there are so many different lanes. You're not dealing with one horse race. You're dealing with hundreds. And there's one, I agree with you, there's 0.1% everywhere. And the only reason why compounding works, and that one factor that you can't change is time. But you need time to allow that to grow. You need to put the input in. You need that time to compound the impact. And that happens both negatively and positively. So how do you, Michael, knowing that, which is such great insight in your mind, but how do you implement that? How do you manage to implement that, given that there are so many balls in the air? So many, the key relationships that you want to develop, the business, yourself, all the things. How do you keep on top of that?
There's no real plan or science around that. I think it's probably what I'm, interested in and want to focus on. There's plenty of areas of my life where I'm sort of, towards the bottom of the pack that I probably need to focus on, a couple of those 1%ers to improve. So in general, I think I focus on the things that I feel are important in order to stay away from problems. I sort of plan around things so that they don't go wrong. So that's where I'll focus my time and my efforts and, those 1%ers that we talk about. So, and that comes from
You're focusing on the stick there?
Yeah, previous experiences of, shit, that was tough or that didn't go well or we nearly went broke there or that, that was not a great experience. So then we're like, in order for that not to happen again, then we focus
what we have to do
with the work we have to do. So
interesting.
So I'm sort of, it's a fear-based motivation.
Yeah. Which is strong, right? Because there's that whole study with the rat whereby they ascertained its level of intent through a maze to find cheese, and it worked out a time or whatever. So that's the carrot or the cheese, as the case was. That's and then they put a cat or the smell of a cat on the back of it,
right?
The fear.
Oh yeah,
and it went twice as fast.
Yeah.
So that's what you're trying to allude to. That you focus on all the different levels. You're in the little areas of your life. You're taking stock as to avoid the stick that motivates you.
Yeah, and you can look at it as a stick, or you can look at it as a learned experience.
Yeah.
And as you get older, I guess you get more experiences to think.
Are you actively thinking about that in your head? Like, it is best that we don't do that again, or I don't have to experience that chapter of my life again. So, what am I going to do differently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm definitely focused on that, and as best I can, everyone has blind spots, but as best I can, I try to understand what I can be responsible for in those circumstances, or those events, or those periods of time, or how I can be better, improve, and then a byproduct of that is, don't encounter that again, or if we do, it's not as harsh or impactful.
How much do you subscribe to the idea of like extreme ownership in any circumstance?
Yeah, accountability is, one of my biggest values. It's top 3 for sure. And it's something that every human being needs to constantly work on. You never get there because you have so many things in the way, opinions, upbringings, ego. Your own ego is, pretty powerful. And if you don't think you have an ego, then you're probably the one with the biggest one. Because I definitely have an ego. Extreme ownership, accountability. That's up there for me.
Let's go back then. And your entrepreneur. I'm trying to get to this where you started with Devcon.
Oh yeah.
How do we get there from not progressing the maverick route of fighter pilots to starting with Devcon?
One of my best mates. We sort of gravitated to each other around the idea of business in general. And we had he's a chippy by trade. And, I was doing the uni thing, not really loving it, but he had, and his family were into property. So he'd bought a house as an investment property. And then anyway, we started doing some stuff and, building houses and flipping them type thing. And we do a 6-pack and we evolved from there. So this was before kids. That sort of initial interest into property came from him, I'll say, or, like our collaboration of investigating that. I'm a numbers person, really good at it, but I'm not a freak Rain Man, but I have this, sort of sixth sense around it. Like I can look at a set of numbers or a set of books or a spreadsheet and go, there's something wrong there that doesn't add up. And I can go find it, but
you can feel it.
I can feel it, yeah. So I sort of brought that part of, which is that engineering, that electrical engineering. It's all maths, right? And the type of maths that don't use numbers, that use, equations and algebra, all the letters and weird. So it's more of an intuition, an understanding of how maths works, not what 6 times 6 is. I sort of brought that intuition that probably wasn't really ever, tapped or taken somewhere. And Daryl had the technical side of it type thing. And together we sort of, created something. And He's a really successful builder in his own right, developer, uber successful. You wouldn't even know him. He's one of those guys that drives around in an old sort of ute and goes, "Oh, what's that guy?" And he's worth X type thing. So super, super focused on an outcome, and so he got me into property, and we both worked for a company on the coast that eventually he was a construction manager. I was in real estate, not doing very well because I don't like to put myself out there. So
I can't imagine real estate is something you do very well at.
No, so I didn't. I failed horribly in hindsight, but I knew how you needed to do it, but I just wasn't the personality for it. But so that company eventually collapsed, and then so I had a business sort of mind, I guess, and my then father-in-law approached me and said, "Hey," because I didn't have a job, had a 1-year-old maybe at the time, thereabouts, maybe not even one, Austin. He said, "Come and work for me. I need help." Not in those words, but come and have a look, see what you. And he had businesses in industries, Video Easies. So back then, super cool business, like unbelievable.
The model.
Yeah, the model and how fun it was, and that it was really cool. But unfortunately, there are none of them around anymore. So you can sort of determine what happened there. It wasn't a great outcome. But so when I was working for him, I said I sort of had that property sort of passion, I guess, that I built with Daryl, put into had a bad experience, in a company that I was involved in, and then I said, you know what, you need to diversify into some other industry. He was a property guy too, but more not a developer, more of a buy property. I understood it, so it was a pretty good suggestion that he took on board, and we went and bought some development sites to, as a succession plan.
Did you know at that stage the writing was on the wall for Video Easy and the like?
No, yes, no. Young, thought I could, beat the market. You're not bigger than the market. That's what that taught me. I looked and I researched all the, there's this thing called Netflix, right? Back then it was a mail order business Netflix where literally you would subscribe and they would send you DVDs to your house. Worked in America, right? Because they have, when you want to post something, you just put it in your mailbox.
Yeah,
and then the postman takes it. So that returning your video was done at your mailbox. You didn't have to go to the post office in metropolitan areas in America. So that's what this Netflix was. And they were talking about, then the internet sort of got some momentum, and then they were talking about, soon you'll download a movie. And I was researching as much about that as possible, and I surmised that the internet's never going to get that fast that you can download a movie. And
at that stage it took about 16 minutes to download a song.
Yeah, that's right. All of those things. So I was looking for all the reasons why I would be right,
interesting,
and not the reasons of possibility, which you go home and probably 9 out of 10 people turn Netflix on and at the click of a button watch whatever they want.
Is that a pivotal moment for you to then start thinking about the stick rather than the upside?
Yeah. Yep. And so we did some things, and we did, like in hindsight, I'll say that the industry swallowed us up, but we, I think we exited as best we could. Like we were leaders in a dying market, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Not something to be proud of, really, but So we went and bought some development sites, and then the GFC hit. So development was probably the least smartest thing to try and get into, but just the straw that broke the camel's back, and my father-in-law didn't survive that financially, and that was a really traumatic time. That's one of those sort of scenarios where you look back and go, I learned from that, don't do that again. So by not doing that means do this.
Mm-hmm.
But that was sort of my start, I guess.
Both professionally and personally?
Yeah, or everything
Everything.
that you can imagine as a human, all types of relationships, business, employing people, you know, business plans, you name it, everything. Learnt a
Wholesale
lot.
changes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The sort of stuff you can't learn in a book or by talking to people or having a mentor. Like, it was, really, really hard time. In some ways, I'm glad I experienced it, but wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
What could you tell someone? God forbid we hit a GFC again, but you know, I'm relatively new into business, and I feel like I've had the benefit of a growing economy here. What could you tell someone who hasn't experienced that?
Well, I think what I can definitely tell someone is that since the GFC, it's been sunshine and rainbows, and call it 2010. So fast forward 16 years, like it's a whole generation. Like, and you can throw COVID in the middle there, and mining boom collapse, and all those sorts of things. But if you have been in business, in Australia in general, but Southeast Queensland since the GFC, that is not normal, I don't think. And the next GFC thing, whatever that is, and then may not be financial, it might be some other political or structural change, is coming. Just if someone can tell me when that is. But it's coming in the next.
Call in now, 1-800.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's you've gone around my question. What's the advice? You've lived through it. You know, I think there's an enormous amount of nobility to be able to say you've gone through that and learned from it.
If you think it's hard, then it'll get harder at a point. You got to be ready for it, and whatever that means for you, you may not even know what that means, but try and think of the worst case scenario and double it, and then that's as bad as it can get. And then talking about business and finances, and but it's also people and the impact on families and people's ability to pay mortgages. And you can go through the history of time, which I enjoy doing. I'm not but it repeats itself.
Yeah,
the world is a pattern
for sure.
As human beings, we're cyclical, and it's a pattern. So.
Yeah, but do you have your doomsday, bomb shelter at home?
No, no, none of that. No.
In terms of, like, I guess even metaphorically for business, or are you just going to believe that no matter how big the wave is, you'll be able to manage it?
I'm not that naive to think that I can survive anything, because it's a good time for us right now. So in our business, it's a good time, and my focus is on being ready for when it's not good.
Yeah,
like that's up there. Points 2, 3, and 4 on my agenda as the CEO of Devcon is we just got to be ready.
Take me back. You're developing. Post GFC. Where are we moving from there?
So post GFC is just about survival. Bought some sites. Father-in-law, falls over financially. So it's sort of, I take it on. I choose not to. I choose to take it on. So I sort of choose to fight the fight, so to speak, to try and survive, which I did, but it was tough. So, but one of the things that we did do was we started Devcon in that time, because we thought we'll just be a builder for ourselves rather than have other builders build our development. So we started a building company, and we went to Central Queensland off the back of the Video Easy business, and that's where Devcon really sort of hit its straps and started, was up there. So we come out of a GFC on the eastern seaboard, and there was nothing to do here. So we went to Central Queensland, where the mining industry was booming, sort of in the opposite direction of the general economy. So we jumped on that, and it was like Wolf of Wall Street, but out in the West. Like, it was stupid. How much money people were making, it was ridiculous. There's the dad in Wolf of Wall Street says obscene or something. Like, it was obscene. Like, we were making, the amount of money we were making out of each house is stupid.
Just because of the supply and demand in
we
that area.
Didn't matter. You just say a price and someone would say yes, and then you'd go build it. And then when the mining boom, the sort of 2012, 13, 14, somewhere around there. And you know the term when you're out clubbing and someone turns the ugly lights on.
The ugly lights came on.
The ugly lights came on, and it didn't come on over a period of 18 months or whatever. Like the market just didn't slow. Like someone switched on the ugly lights and activities stopped overnight. And I mean stopped.
That was the mining tax that came in?
Yeah, mining tax. And then I think the big mining companies just sort of went, enough's enough. We're just going to create their own recession inside of the mining industry to reset cost.
Yeah, interesting.
That's
your opinion, yeah.
A lot of things at play, right? And I'm by no means an expert to talk about that. But it was just getting out of hand, and I could see, looking back. So, but then by then, while that mining collapse happened out there, the rest of Australia was on the improve out of the GFC. So we came back to the coast, and we already sort of had started doing that, but we really ramped that up, and we survived the mining collapse sort of era, and then jumped on the coast's sort of growth, and that was the start of this growth over the last sort of 12, 15 years that I sort of mentioned before about it's not normal, it won't happen forever, but we've grown through that now to what Devcon is today, I guess.
Hey team, just popping in to say thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the episode, please take a second to like or follow the show and share it with a friend. It's the best way to help us grow and keep bringing you more great content. All right, let's get back into it. Talk to me about where you got to and the point of thinking that, because it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows with the business, and there was a period of time with your other stakeholders that you were wanting to throw in the towel. And then you ended up taking it all.
Yeah.
Talk to me through that.
I guess, I just explained how we went through some, GFC and then mining collapse. So, the company, let's call it a company, wasn't in a great place financially. And neither was I. Like I was worn out, and I'd had some health issues that are directly related to stress and not looking after yourself. We had some partners in the business, and I guess there was partnership personality conflicts that sort of occurred. And I walked into a meeting one day and with the intent to, throw my keys in, so to speak, hand it over and go, I'm out, which I knew that meant Devcon closing.
Why?
Not sure who would close it, whether that meant an administration or otherwise. But
why, if you weren't there?
The other personalities either couldn't do it for particular legal reasons, or weren't the right personality or business acumen or want. Great humans in their own right, and what they were good at and who they are, amazing. Both of them would be great people to chat to here. But just as a collective, the three of us, it just wasn't, it didn't align. So I walked into this meeting basically, there was upset. There were conversations before, obviously. The meeting wasn't out of the blue. But I was walking into that meeting to basically hand in my resignation.
How big was the company back then in terms of staff at that point?
I'm going to say sort of 25, 30 people.
Got it.
But yeah, we walked into the meeting and we had a meeting. It was a round table. And in the end, one of the partners said, well, I don't want to be a part of this. He saw himself as the cause or the ultimatum to say, I want out. I don't want to be a part of this. The only option, if he was out and I was out, really the only option was that Devcon closes, shuts down, administrators called in, whatever. But in the moment, I just turned around and said, well, I'll buy you guys out. And
that wasn't the intent going in.
Definitely wasn't. I'd spoken to my wife at the time, and I said, I'm going in to, resign. Like, I'm not going to have a job, and I'm not sure what that means for us. We'll probably lose our home, which it would have meant that. But
that's how bad it was for you?
I was just I was in such a bad place mentally. I couldn't see the opportunities or the positives for all the problems. And I wore the problems on me.
Personally?
Yeah, like physically on me. And I know that might, you can't, a problem isn't a physical thing, but it was on me. So, I don't know if you've ever been in parts of your life. I'm sure, some of those ridiculous races that you've run and you're, throwing up while you're still riding on the bike and you can't see the reason why you should continue. I'm sure you've been in places like that. That's where I was at. Worn out and done. Like my bucket wasn't full; it was empty.
Yeah.
There were holes in it. Just anything that got put in there leaked out. But back to that meeting. In the meeting, or in that moment, or that couple of days conversation, I took over Devcon wholly, and
I find that extraordinary.
Yeah, and I can't really explain it. Why?
Really?
Nah, still can't. Still don't understand why I said the words.
What did motivate you to do that?
So in recollection, at the time, and it's probably only been in the last 6 months since I've been talking to you, Richard, and we've sort of created this mini little documentary at home, at work, about me having to reflect on all the stuff that I've maybe had some gap space in that since then to be able to reflect. But what resonates with me is the people. So, the people we had working for us loved working at Devcon. They loved each other and what we did. And we weren't very good, right? So we had a lot to learn, and it was part of the reason why we were struggling, obviously. But they still loved it. For me, it was the people, I didn't want to have to stand in front of them and say, hey, we're shutting down or whatever, or the effort that got into collating a great group of people. Those types of things were things that I think back on and recollect around why I made that decision. Definitely wasn't financial. Nothing financial about it at all.
You were prepared to lose your home just to get out of it, and then the opportunity to have it all within a couple of days of that is an extraordinary step, given that that's the cause. Or were you able to separate the cause of the stress, the cause of the environment to which you did not want to be a part of was more so towards the other business partners in that environment that allowed you to be in, as against the company itself?
The reason why Devcon wasn't going well back then was that we had 2 people, but then a third for a little bit of time. There was no cohesion in our personality types and how each of us individually would go about running a business.
Right.
Not that each of us were wrong in our approaches or our beliefs or anything like that. They were just different. So I think it was sort of like...
You weren't rowing the boat in the same direction?
Yeah. We tried to, and we're all collaborative and, yep, that makes sense, let's do it. But like deep down, when it really matters, what you say to yourself when you're by yourself is what the truth is. And we weren't aligned on that, if that makes sense. So it just meant that the message, wherever it goes, whether it's internal to a customer, to a trade or a market or whatever, it didn't land. Like it wasn't, oh yeah, get it. Yeah, I want to be a part of that. Let's do it holistically. And 3 very strong personalities. So no followers, in those 3.
Yeah.
We're all leaders.
Proper leaders, yeah.
Proper leaders. And I think, can you have 3 like proper leaders? Maybe you can, but in that scenario, we couldn't. No one's fault, just not a match. That make sense?
So you became the owner, took full ownership of the business, of the company, at 25 staff. And over the course of some 10 years, through the challenge of COVID, talk to me, I guess, through that COVID piece as a developer, because property development and construction it's a really risky game. There's obviously a lot of upside if there's there, but in terms of someone who is cautious of the stick, or conscious of the stick, you're playing. There's a lot of variables that can turn south for you. There's a lot of time that you're relying on hold, and a lot of things have to go your way. And if a few things don't, then the whole exercise is moot. If not negative. What was that like as the whole owner through COVID?
In some ways, those experiences sort of I've just spoken about were the traineeships to COVID, because COVID came out of nowhere, similar to the mining collapse, I guess, and GFC to a point. COVID was a weird one because initially I thought that the world was going to implode financially. It was my default thought, right? It's what I'd seen 2-3 times before. Our industry is significantly different to others and other parts of the world and Australia. But during COVID, it was a roller coaster ride. The first bit was a hold on, holy shit, that's the first drop. What's going to happen? No one knows. And then you sort of get used to it and you work a plan. But what we did, because it wasn't me at all, there was a lot of people in Devcon that, and the industry as well. COVID needed the industry to band together to get through that. But inside of our own world, our own four walls, we decided to sort of separate to conquer. So there's sort of, funnily enough, 2 others that are in my business that are key guys. But by now we've got 80 people and a really entrenched base of loyal staff, and we just had to roll our sleeves up and get through it. But the biggest thing that I did in the directions that I made, that everybody grabbed hold of and fulfilled as best they could, was don't leave any opportunity on the table. We got to fight for it. So when it came to putting prices up, when it came to resetting contracts and all of these things that were, in the media, and some developers and builders ended up on a current affair for doing stuff that we did, but we had to do it to survive. And if we didn't do those things, we wouldn't be here. So that was unfortunate for some people that were on the consumer end. The way I justified that in my own, mind or my own soul is that those people weren't getting that product unless we survived anyway. So I might as well say, sorry, you can't buy that anymore. I've got to sell it to someone else for more to survive, to finish it.
And then if they went shopping, it'd be met with the same resistance.
That's right. So we tried to do some things where we sort of we shared the hurt, and for whatever, and we went early on that strategy. Like, we went real early, and we were one of the first ones. And we had kickback, we had a lot of negative sort of feedback, but I think we can count on 2 hands how many of our customers didn't come on the journey with us. We cut a deal with everyone that sort of was a bit of win-win. So COVID was tough, but our survival was sort of never in doubt looking back, because of our culture and what we'd built sort of since, that meeting that I talked about. It's the culture that got us through.
So talk to me then, that you've got from 2015, 2016, when you became full owner.
Yeah.
You had you said 25 staff, to then COVID hits and you have 80. How are you built? And not only 80, but 80 of, an incredible culture there. How are you actively working on that yourself? What's going in your mind as the team's growing to make sure that it's a unique experience?
Yeah, so culture is, I think before I said, top 2-3 of my list is being ready for the next, bomb in the mail. The number one thing on my radar and what I focus on is culture, and who are we to work for, do business with, and, buy from, be a consumer of, be a customer of. So that is my number one focus. We put a lot of work into communicating internally with ourselves around quirky little sayings and things like that that have a real meaning. One of the other things that I would say to a business person who is starting out or, wants to build a business is that know what you're good at and focus on that. In-N-Out burgers sell one type of burger, really. It's just whether it's got 2 patties in it or 3 or 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
That's an extreme, but
Stick to your knitting.
Stick to your knitting, work out what you're good at, and just be really good at that and stick to it. Because we've learned from our mistakes. But internally, that's our culture, like who we are, stick to who we are, and look after ourselves as well as the people that look after us.
Where did that come from for you, though?
I know that's from that Italian upbringing. That sort of when you're in the community, when you're in the family, you're in the family, whether you're blood or not. Like you're in. When you're out, you're out. And I have that sort of switch sometimes when I feel like someone's done wrong by us. I really want to, cut them off. Something I'm working on and growing with about that because, but my grandfather, he's my hero. Like I looked up to him, but he died when I was 18, so I don't even really he's my childhood hero, so to speak. But he had this amazing sort of way to make everyone feel welcome, so it definitely comes from that Italian culture, I guess.
Yeah.
I think in the video we just made, I said that Italians, they get together and they use food to get together, whereas at Devcon we use fun. Like we really want it to be fun first. Because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to really do it well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the culture that we're constantly trying to have, a collaboration of culture. So it's just not all about me now. So that's the shift, I guess. We've got 90 odd people. My shift as CEO of Devcon is to, allow other people to come in and help create that culture from who they are and their past experiences and that sort of thing. And that's what will give Devcon a legacy culture rather than being about one person, be about a group of people that's ever changing, and it's a living, breathing thing because people always come and go.
Mm.
And it fits for some, really fits for some, and really it doesn't for others, especially in our industry. It's very technical. That's the culture that we're trying to uphold and grow and constantly be better.
What you say to yourself when you're by yourself is the truth.
Yeah.
What do you say to yourself when you're by yourself?
Look, I'm pretty hard on myself. Yeah. And what I mean by that is...
I don't need context.
Yeah, pretty hard on myself. Like I'm pretty focused on what I could have done better.
That doesn't answer my question, Michael.
What was the question?
What do you say to yourself when you're by yourself?
Usually it's, pretty negative. Yeah. Around, you got to do better, improve.
What motivates you to do better?
I'm not sure. I think that's that.
Are you sure you're not sure?
Yeah, not sure. I'm not sure. I do. I'll tell you a story my mum told me recently in the last month, which I think might answer your question. Where as a young kid, I was a swimmer. She said I was going to my first swimming carnival, right? And then she's downstairs or something. I'm in my bedroom and she hears this banging in my room. Anyway, I'm putting nails in the wall of my room, like nails. She comes up, said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just getting ready to put my medals up." So, I think back of that now and I go, oh my God, what a wanker.
Confident, I think that's the word you're looking for.
Confident, yeah. So I just love winning, I guess, and whatever that means. And as I've grown older, I know that winning sort of feeling or that competitiveness is something that is transferred into a win-win sort of viewpoint. I think I was born with wanting to be better. I'm pretty big on, self-help, improvement, reading books, courses, interested in that stuff, listen to podcasts, all that sort of stuff. There might be some massive blind spot that I have, and probably is. But right now, today, at 46 years old, I can't answer that question apart from saying that I was born competitive and wanting to be better.
It's hard as well because business is not a swimming race.
Mm.
Swimming it's so controlled, and you can markedly tell yourself whether you've won,
Yes.
whether you've improved.
Mm.
Business is much harder than that. Personal
It
development is
It
much
is.
harder than that.
It is.
These
yeah.
are infinite game that we're playing, where being the best husband or being the best father or being the best boss it's so subjective, but it's a forever it's a forever task. You can't win fatherhood.
No.
Can't win business.
That's right.
So what is it? Just that pursuit of improvement for you?
I think so.
The 1% gains continually.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a lot of value in that too, I think.
Yep.
The pursuit of that. Do you find, as against the outcome?
Yep. And just going into another area of my life, with my fiancée Sarah, we talk about our relationship, and one of the things I think I shared with you, Richard, was that we are doing marriage counselling when we don't have problems.
Yeah. Nothing's under the carpet. Nothing's getting swept.
And the thing that I love about Sarah the most, apart from our caring, is that her willingness to work on herself. And she's actually, I would say, more willing to work on herself than I was when we first got together. So together we want to be better.
That's beautiful.
You never get there as well. So there's no finish line to being better.
But I think it's really important to, whether it's your business partners, whether it's your wife or your fiance, or to have this idea that we are on a path to improvement.
Yeah.
And not just to say, well, this is who I am, take me or leave me.
Yeah.
And it's just met with a wall.
Yeah.
It's this infinite possibility of the potential.
Yeah.
And as if you're bought into that, I think that's where, and particularly when you've got someone at home who believes in it as well, it's amazing.
Yeah.
As you said, it doesn't mean we're not perfect. It doesn't mean that we are perfect or we don't have faults. But to be able to acknowledge when we're not, and to be able to go, yeah, I'm doing my best to be better, and so open to learn.
Well, in all of those scenarios that we sort of spoke about in my business career, there's so many things that I can be responsible for that I contributed to that situation not being better. Learning from those has been my growth, and why, Devcon's successful, or, you'll say that I'm successful in business or in family or any of those things. It's a constant journey around that. Actually, I'll say contextually, when I had that meeting, the meeting where I went in to resign, but I ended up taking over the whole business, I then decided, so I went home to my then wife and said, well, actually, I took over rather than resigning, and I'm going to London to do a course, a self-help course. And there's a guy by the name of Brian Main, and anyone that is looking for motivation might be struggling a little bit with negative thought. I highly recommend Brian Main's book called Goal Mapping, because I'd read it, and I still say to this day that it saved me. I'm not saying that I wouldn't have found something else to, save me, but it was the thing that saved me.
So you become the full owner of Devcon, and then you jet set to London to see this guy.
Do a 3-day course, yeah. Basically to be taught how to be a facilitator to teach the book. The process that he'd created and the psychology that's in the book to other people. Now, that wasn't my intent. I just thought that if I really need to understand this, I'm going to learn how to teach it to someone else. That's the best way to learn, right, is to teach.
Yep.
So I went and did that. Really boring course. Because I'd researched it that much that I sort of knew it, and I'm also not great in a classroom. I'm like, okay, what's next? And then, in every classroom, there's the person that puts their hand up and asks
1,000 questions.
Yeah, all the questions. So I'm that guy that struggles with that. But I learned a lot, like so much stuff. That what I learned most is that the human brain is it is some extraordinary computer, because it's emotional as well as technical, that we as humans don't know 10% of it, what it can do and how you can train it to be, a certain way. But I took, coming back a bunch of pegs from that. I took the psychology of goal mapping, which basically means to create a goal that you're going to fulfill on. It needs to get into your subconscious so that no matter what you do in your day, whether you're thinking about your goal or not, every decision or that you make or action that you make comes from
that place.
The focus of getting to that. It's I think a lot of people understand that, but what Brian Main's system is that he does that by using your left and right brain and using the technical side and the creative side. And you write down your goal, but you also draw it. And that's the most powerful part of it. So you might say, I want to make $1 million this year in your business. So you write those words, but then you draw what that looks like for you in your mind's eye. You put it on paper. And that's the part that gets, into your subconscious because illustrations are far more understood by the subconscious than facts. I went and did this course, and when I, on the plane back, I basically proceeded to write Devcon's business plan. And the business plan, that was 10 or so years ago. It's still the same business plan, like the structure.
Yeah.
It modifies obviously slightly depending on how we've grown and, different areas that we go to or what we might build, but we always revert back to that business plan and does it fit in there? If it doesn't, then we don't do it. That was the real birth of Devcon, the way that I can...
You wanted it to look like, right?
Yeah, well, it's worked. So I was able to create a business plan without having to sort of run it past someone else, and then took it back into our business. And then I've spent the last 10 years or so communicating that through culture, through all those things that we sort of talked about, into the team to say, this is who we are, this is who we are, this is who we are. And even when someone has a problem, we documented this into a book. You've seen it. We call it the brain book. So it has left brain, right brain, the colourful. Often someone will come with a problem, doesn't know what to do. I say, what does the book say? Because normally the answer's in the book. Not so much in this scenario you do X, but
general behaviours
are in there. It's a pretty cool document.
It's on my desk.
For us, is it? Yeah. So that was the real birth of Devcon, and that's sort of the intellectual property. We don't do anything too different to any other building company or development company, but that is different, significantly different to any other business in our industry that I've seen. So I think that's our secret sauce.
Where are you going now? What's the goal?
More of the same.
What's the map? Yeah.
Yeah, more of the same. For me, I'm taking the next step of evolution and, learning how to be a CEO of, the CEO that does less. Really challenging for me.
How does that sit with you? Yeah,
no, It doesn't sit because I'm a doer, right?
Yeah.
So I was brought up by Kain cutters, a baker, and my mum was, basically a pastry chef without the qualification. I learned by seeing people do. So it's really foreign for me and tough. And I love getting down and dirty into the detail and coming up with solutions. And I love solutions. Like I got so many of them. Personally, for me inside of Devcon, my journey for the next 5 to 10 years is working out how I can best develop, communicate and implement plans and directions of where I think Devcon should go, and stepping back and sitting on my hands when it means working out how that might happen exactly.
Let the team sort that out.
Yeah, because we got so many amazing people that can be so much better if me and others get out of their way. It's really uncomfortable, but that's the next phase. Yeah. So it's exciting as well.
Growing up, in the burbs of Nambour and your mum's still in the same place for 40 years in Budrum, you, with your team, are effectively contributing to the changing landscape of the coast. How does she feel about you now and what you've been able to achieve?
Yeah, she's.
Does she get it?
Yeah, she's super proud, as any mum would be. She often makes a comment and goes, "Oh, Mama and Nuna would be so proud. They'd be looking down." I guess because she looks at it and goes, they came to Australia looking for a better life. We talked about compounding before. So that's like on a macro level
100%,
of
generational compounding.
Yeah.
By their hard work has compounded to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find all that really uncomfortable to talk about because I don't see what I do as exceptional or better than anyone else. It's just what we do, right? So, but she says those sorts of things often.
This has been a great chat. I really appreciate your time. Fast 5 questions. What does success mean to you, Michael?
Fun.
What does happiness mean to you?
Happiness for me and family go hand in hand. So I'm going to say family.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love that. What does a normal morning routine look like for you?
Gym at 5:30 or 6:30, and then home, breakfast, get dressed in my uber casual corporate attire, and check my calendar. And usually my day's pretty full with meetings and those sorts of commitments. One of the things I've tried to do this year is, meetings 9 to 3:30 rather than start at 7 and finish at 6.
If there was a piece of advice you would give to the world or you'd tell your younger self that you'd be able to put on a billboard, what would that advice be?
That you just go with your gut. You're going to make your decision is the right one. Just make it and go after that decision 100%. Don't second guess yourself. Yeah, once you've made a decision, don't worry about the other choices.
So good. Now, this is the question where Scotty Hoskins suggested you, and I'm very much appreciative of him for doing that. But who do you know that you think would be a good chat on the show?
Yeah, I've sort of grappled with this a little bit. Obviously know a lot of cool people, but I've chosen someone helps a lot of people and, going on that theme of this is for others rather than yourself. So Kathleen Hope, who is...
I've already had her on.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. Go on, give you someone else.
I didn't do my research.
No, that's okay. She's an exceptional human.
Mm.
On that as well, Devcon, you guys have constructed a home and donated it entirely to...
Yeah, we're building a house at the moment for Sunny Kids. So we're...
Kathleen's the CEO of Sunny Kids.
Sunny Kids, yeah. Devcon's just the builder, right? We're the dumb builder. The thanks really needs to go to the tradespeople and the suppliers. I can't list them all now, but that are donating their time and their material and their know-how to build this house that we ultimately want to build it for free. We won't get there, but it's going to be pretty close to that. So just to raise money for Sunny Kids, because they do amazing work with kids on the coast that have been affected by domestic violence and other unfortunate situations. I didn't come from that background, but anything to do with kids, and I'm all in. So Kathleen's an amazing human. All of the people that work at Sunny Kids are amazing humans. Like they are.
Yeah.
Like talk about getting better and being a better person. I got a lot to learn from people like that. But yes, that's the background there. Someone else. He might hate me for saying this, but there's a gentleman by the name of Graham Hobbs, who's one of the CEOs of, he might have stepped down as that role, but one of the CEOs of Living Choice Australia. And I've known Graham for maybe 10 years or so now, but every time I meet him, I'm intrigued by his persona. Almost 80 years of age and still, running a massive business. But I just look at guys like him and I go, he's forgotten more stuff than I know. Not because he's old. I don't mean it that way. But I just, wealth of knowledge. And I think, he may not accept, but he would be someone that I think people would get a lot out of listening to. Yeah.
Michael Kain, that's Thank you so much. This has been an amazing opportunity to chat, to pick your brain, and I loved it. I had the very fortunate opportunity to present to your team not long ago and spend the morning with them, and what you're creating or what you have created, continue to create. It's a living being, but goodness, it's a tight group. And that's that culture is evident.
Yeah, certainly proud of that. Sure. Yeah.
Thanks for your time, man.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the time you put into this podcast. It's without people like you getting to listen to things like this, people don't get to learn and grow. So, and thanks to Scott Hoskins for giving me a little jab in the ribs to say, "Come on, mate."
Yeah,
been good. Appreciate it.
That was another episode of the Success Times Happiness podcast. Next time you're driving past a new development on the coast, turn to the person next to you and tell them all about the show. It really means a lot. A huge thank you to Michael for giving us a real insight into what it takes to build a business that lasts. If today's conversation inspired you, please subscribe, leave a comment, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. It really means a lot. Until next time, peace.